Galilee. Uh, and what we're going to talk about today is the UAE and Saudi Arabia were drone attacked yesterday. Um, they were going after a nuclear plant in the UAE. Uh, there was three drones. I think one got through in the UAE but didn't do any bad damage, and some came to Saudi and they took some down too, but that's nothing compared to Ukraine sending 600 drones into Russia yesterday and last night, I guess. And Russia took down about 540 or 560. But that's still, if you got 40 or 60 drones that gets through, it's a lot of damage. Okay? And we're going to discuss the war starting up again any minute. I mean, Israel's prepping, America's prepping. The transport planes are coming in, 15 in the last 24 or so hours, maybe 30 hours by now. 15. Yet at the same time, they moved certain planes back to Europe because they didn't want to see them get hit on the ground. They probably took them out of Saudi Arabia, and maybe they took them out of the UAE if they had any in the UAE. I don't know. So, I mean, guys, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, they're going to get hit with the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Jordan is a secondary concern to Iran because they don't export any oil. They make oil, but they use it themselves. Iran doesn't care that much, but they are allies of America, so they care. And the Saudis were saying, well, the Iranians, I believe, were saying that they didn't send the drones, they came out of Iraq. Well, yeah, I mean, what are they? I don't know what happened. They could be lying, or they could have brought their drones over there and sent them out. And what the big news, I didn't put it in the headline, is Iran gave Cuba 300 drones. And I think their target would be Florida and the base at Gitmo. Uh, Trump is not exactly, jumping for joy over this. Now, remember how many critical areas in Florida have an Iron Dome? None. How many have a Patriot system? Well, there probably one or two military bases have a couple. Maybe, maybe not. How are you going to take them down? Well, you can take them down with fighter jets and helicopters, I'll tell you the truth. But if you're talking about a swarm of 300, oh boy. So we're also going to get to some Bible studies at the end on end times, of course, specifically Gog and Magog. But we're going to touch on what they don't tell you, and that's Zechariah 14 is the same war, Gog and Magog, and so is Ezekiel 8 to 11, which actually shows you the build-up to the falling away and everything. All right. So I'm going to jump into the live stream today, which is today, what is today? 18th of May, Monday, and it's about 7:47, about 7:45 in the morning, a little different, 7:47, okay. Let me get into the live stream, but I got to get into position. There we are. Okay. Oh, I think mommy's making a speech to the neighborhood. Okay. Everybody's saying war imminent for days now. And I think so. I think war is imminent. I'm at that point, yeah. There's some stuff flying around that I think is fake news. They're saying Trump's going to give Iran $25 billion and let them make nuclear material to take a deal. I haven't heard that. Trump's, doing countdowns. He's doing everything he can to scare Iran. It's not doing any good. Iran hasn't gotten scared yet. Okay? Why would it be different now? I don't know. No reason I could think of. All right, we got sound and picture. Thank you, moderators. And let me put the post up real quick, which is going to take seconds. Okay, I got this, and now let me pin it up there, and that should be a couple of seconds. That looks good, I believe. And people coming in, very good, very good. And we're also going to talk about why the war is going to start very soon. I left that out. That's a big thing. And I'm going to give you the breakdown of the why, which is really very important that you understand why it's going to come down, okay? All right. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise, and I have zero control over who joins in and doesn't. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Oh, feels like it's getting warm again. Last night, Beulah got out of her kennel. Middle of the night, she came in to see me, gave me a little cold nose therapy, and I told her to lay down, and we got a doormat there by my room, and I had a fan going, not directly on her. The fan was over where she was, but she would feel the breeze in the room, and she went to sleep. So she slept in there with me. She was uncomfortable. The other one, the mommy had a fan blowing on her last night, so she was okay. So we gotta maybe start running the AC or something. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that hot today, but it feels, it's like overcast. Let's see what the temperature is. Holy Land Weather Report. 74, not that big a deal. 88 high. I mean, 88's warm. It'll be partly overcast, I think, the whole day. I don't see any rain. Tomorrow we drop to 82 high, sunny, and then we drop to 79, then 76, then we go to 80. No rain around here. And no, wait, there is a chance for rain on Thursday at 76 degrees. Now, I tell you the truth, I like rain in the 70s or the 80s. I think it's nice. Okay, I don't mind it at all. I don't think it'll happen. It's so rare that we have a nice, warm, rainy day in Israel. I mean, even every once in a great while you get a sunny rainy day. I mean, it's, I don't know what will happen, but it might actually rain, but I don't mind it when it's warm, not at all. It's kind of nice, it washes the air. Okay, so here's why the war is going to go down. Okay, Trump is not stopping his blockade. Is that crippling or killing Iran? It's two different words I'm using. Not killing, crippling. Economically. Um, they're not able to move oil out to any with the ships. What they're doing is China is helping them. China needs oil, and they're sending the oil on trains. Okay, and they on a train they can get about barely half the load on a small oil tanker, which is about 100,000 tons, barrels. They could get maybe half of that out on a train, maybe a little less even. That's not that much, but it's something. Now, how many trains can they send? It takes 10 to 14 days or 15 days. I think it's fair to say it's about 15 days to go to China from Iran with the train. I think you're looking at about 6,000 miles. And it's longer. It gets 30, 40 days on a ship. The problem is you can't blow up the path the ship takes. Well, how are you going to do that? You can't. It's in the ocean. But you can blow the train tracks up. You can blow the train tracks up with a helicopter. A toy drone would probably have enough explosives to blow the track. All you got to do is ruin a piece of track that's even 2 feet long, and the train will crash. That's it. Trains work great in peacetime. Other than that, they're pretty vulnerable. During World War II, the fighter pilots, which were using propeller planes, the Allies, right? They had guns on the planes, which were, for most of the war in the early years, it was a 50 cal, and then in the latter days of the war, maybe the last 18 months or something like that, they had 20 millimeter. Big difference. Even with the 50 cal, after they did a bombing run, even the bombing planes, you know, but usually the fighter, whatever, they would take their guns and they would attack targets when they were leaving the country, like Germany. And a lot of the targets they would hit was trains, moving trains. Now, a train can go fast. It would probably be going a good 60 miles an hour, maybe 70, at least 50, I think. And they would spray it with machine guns, the 50 cal. And you'd see the movies from World War II that had cameras in the planes. The guy would go, blah, and you'd see the traces hitting the thing. Probably every third one was a tracer. And after, I don't know, 3 seconds of fire, the train would break into flames or break up or blow up or have an explosion or something like that. So that would be curtains for the train. And the chances of the train destroying the track when you shot it up would be probably 98%, if not 100. because the trains would be pushed sideways and they would rip the track out of place and crash, and the track would be ruined. You'd have to move the big rail cars away, which you could do with heavy equipment, and then um, repair the track. But they always went after the trains. That was a common target. They didn't care if the trains were carrying troops or if the trains were carrying other things. Now, sometimes they came across a train that had cars attached to it that was like a war wagon, and they had anti-aircraft systems in those cars, and they would, like in America, it was like a 40 millimeter round, and it would burst sometimes and do shrapnel, and they had all different systems, 50 cal, different kind, and they would be shooting at the plane attacking them from that car, or they might have two cars on the train like that. So the pilot of the plane had to be pretty careful about what he was doing, or he'd get shot up, So he had to watch himself. And, if he had bombs, which generally they would, I guess sometimes they went after the train with bombs, he'd go up to altitude where it would be very difficult for them to hit him, like, 5,000-6,000 feet, a mile up or something like that. He'd be out of the range of a lot of the anti-aircraft guns back then, but it was kind of difficult to, you see, you can use a bomb site in World War II, I'm talking about, and you say, oh, this is the building where they're making the helmets, and the bomb site locks on the building, and it predicts the projectile, how the bombs are going to flow from the speed of the aircraft, the distance, all that. I think it might even take into account windage, because these bombs had fins, and then they press and the bombs, 20, 30 bombs go down, and they hope, 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them would ever hit the factory, and that's all you need. You get secondary explosions, you get fires, you get death, you get electrical outages, you get all kinds of damage, right? Now, if you're lucky and half the bombs hit, wow, then you demolish the place, right? So with a train, it's tricky because the track's not linear. The thing's moving. The bomb sites weren't really set up to hit moving targets, especially when they're on a track that goes like this. It has turns. It can be rising up the hill or a mountain. So they didn't bomb the trains too much, but they did a lot of dumb things, like they went to bomb submarines in World War II. Now, that would be, they used to send planes out to look for submarines, right? Sometimes the plane had pontoons, it could land, sometimes it didn't, and it usually would have 2 or 4 bombs. It didn't have a tremendous amount of bombs, right? And when he saw a submarine, if the submarine was asleep, which really wasn't the case with the Americans, they would put several lookouts on the sub. They had a little crow's nest thing, and they'd have binoculars, and they'd be watching, They would be standing on a thing, and it had a metal circle around it that would keep them in. If a rogue wave came, it wouldn't wash them out. They would just hang on to the metal, it was probably about that thick or something. So they'd hang on to that, and they wouldn't get washed out. Because they were higher than the wall. The way they go in the submarine, and like the conning tower, call it, they had a wall that came up about chest height of most of the guys, right? So if there was a rogue wave, it wouldn't wash them out. The captain would be there, and XO, and they wouldn't get washed out. They'd get wet as all get up, but that'd be about it. But the guys on the crow nest, which were a few feet higher than the guys walking around, like where the captain was, they, he might have been 6 to 8 feet higher, so he could have got washed out. So they would uh, be standing on this thing, and it had a ring around. It might have had more stuff in there other than that, so they could just hang on to that ring, and they wouldn't go anywhere. They were also standing behind a round thing, so they could just hug onto it. The force of the wave would generally not be that severe. The other thing was they were pretty high up anyway. The captain would probably be from where the water was 30, 40 feet anyway, a good 30 feet. So most of your waves aren't going to be that high. It could happen. You could get a 50-foot rogue wave. But like I said, if he saw it coming, all he has to do is duck. And he's going to get wet, okay? But that's about it. And then when the wave passes, that little area he stands in is going to be full of water till it drains out. So he just stands up and his head's back in. It's just a thing. It lasts 2 or 3 seconds. That's about it, So anyway, Iran is trading with China using the trains, but the trains are so highly vulnerable. I mean, helicopters could blow them up, They can't zig and zag. The pilot can look ahead and see where the tracks are going, so he knows where the train's going to be and when he's going to be there. And the computers in today's planes can predict where the train's going to be when with the speed of the missile, the altitude, distance, all that, and just set the kill shot up, and the pilot just presses the button, and kaboom, it'll hit. You could hit it with 2 3/4 inch rockets coming out of a pod, and that's gonna upset the train. So China's building a house of sand with getting oil on these trains. So Iran's stepping it up. So if they get their hands on enough train cars and enough tanker cars, they might be able to send Iran maybe 3 trains a week or something, I'm guessing. I don't think they're going to send 3 a day. They might send 3 a week or something like that, which is going to give them a certain amount of money. We could take a look at it and give you an idea. Let's just say we're looking at $100 a barrel, which is a rough estimate, okay? So you got $100, and you're timesing. Let's say they put 3 trains out, they get 140,000 barrels, okay? That gives them $14 million a week. That's nothing to run a country the size of Iran. But it's something, okay? It's something. Now, when you're talking a super tanker, it can be 1 to 2 million barrels on one big super tanker. Okay? And, a regular, not so big ship is 300 to 500,000 barrels. So, they're not moving a lot of volume here. Okay? They got 6 land passages open with Pakistan. Pakistan is likely... See, Pakistan is playing a dirty rat game. They made a mutual defense treaty with Saudi Arabia. So why would they do that? They wanted something that Saudi Arabia could give them, right? They didn't do it out of the benevolence of their heart. Oh, Saudi might be in trouble with Iran. We've got to risk our country to help Saudi. They're such nice people. That's not the case. So what is the case? Well, they wanted something from Saudi. I don't know what that something is. I'd have to guess. And the Iranians are attacking Saudi, and the Pakistanis are helping Saudi with you. They're calling it humanitarian aid. Well, I'm not the village idiot. I'm pretty sure weapons are flowing into Iran from there too. What do I mean? Well, Russia and China get stuff into Pakistan, and then it goes on trucks and drives into Iran. Is that hard to figure out? Russia's also transporting weapons and other things to Iran by the Caspian Sea region. Okay, but the blockade is not annihilating the Iranians. It's not end game, but it is very badly damaging them. They're not happy campers about this, not at all. Okay, and it's hurting them, but it's not killing them. Okay, and it's been going on for weeks, and they want it over with. And not only are they saying they want to charge tariffs or a toll. You go over a bridge in, I don't know, the George Washington Bridge, you probably pay $5 or something like that, right? I think that bridge just collects tolls in one direction. Sometimes they set it up like that. They figure you got to go back. I don't know what it could be $10. I don't know. It's a heck of a bridge, though. I've been on it several times. It's way up high. It's whew, what a bridge. There are other bridges that are impressive around the world like that too. I've been on, but that's a pretty impressive one. They got another one that connects Queens and the Bronx called the Whitestone Bridge. That's very high and not as sophisticated as the George Washington Bridge. The San Francisco Bay Bridge is a really sophisticated bridge. You hardly can tell you're on a bridge. When you're going from San Francisco to Oakland, you're underground. And it's like you're in a highway. I mean, it's got a large amount of lanes. What is it? At least 4. And it's like being in a highway. You've got the upper level over your head. The upper level's exposed. That's when you're going from Oakland to San Francisco. And it's high up too. But, you don't really get a feel for, like, I've been on bridges like, oh, wow, look at this, it's so high up, right? And you don't really get that on that Bay Bridge. They got another bridge when you go down the peninsula, Foster City, I think it is, or something like that. And it's, at some places, it looks like it's only 10, 15 feet over the water. It's really low. They built that very, very low. And it's huge. It's several miles across the water. And you really feel like you're on a bridge. It's narrow and stuff like that. You can go fast on that bridge because there's no cops sitting on the side, radar gunning you. They can clock you, but you probably would see them. And they don't really work. Well, things could change today. When I was there, which is a long time ago, they weren't working the bridge for speed. They didn't like it. I don't think the highway patrol guys liked going on there. The potential for them to get stuck there was too high. If there was a breakdown or an accident and they're on the bridge, they could probably not get off for hours. And so I do think they probably had to drive the bridge a certain amount of times a day looking for debris or breakdowns or something, you know. Um, that was probably about it. So anyway, Iran attacked the UAE with several drones, and they're saying no, it came from Iraq, not us. Maybe. I doubt it. And the same with Saudi Arabia. See, Iran is laughing. They're getting free shots all the time at predominantly the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Occasionally they go to Qatar or Kuwait or Bahrain, but predominantly UAE and Saudi Arabia, who have attacked Iran. Not big, heavy attacks, but they have attacked, so Iran's mad. Iran is saying they're going to blow the oil fields up. Now, that would be for Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, probably, maybe not, and Saudi Arabia. And when they start blowing the oil fields up, you'll get oil fields on fire, and you'll get it'd be very difficult to put it out, get it set up again and started. It would be months, maybe a year, or even more than a year. I don't know how extensive the damage would be. See, take the UAE, take Saudi Arabia, okay? They can't get enough Patriot systems, STAD systems, Iron Domes to protect what they need to protect, which I'll explain to you. Their airport, military, and civilian airports need protecting. They got to protect the radar, especially, okay? They need to protect their ports and their piers. They need to protect their pipelines and their refineries, okay? They need to protect their military bases because the dictators know very well that if their military gets killed, they are going to die or they'll have to run away. And they're also going to want to protect their mansions, their houses, the government important buildings. That's a sign of the government being in control. And they have Navy bases, air bases. So now they have to also protect the oil fields. But they just don't have enough systems to do it. Israel has them, but we're the only one. They don't have enough to do it. And they didn't just pick it up in the last 60 and 90 days, That would be something they'd have to work on for 2 or 3 years. So Iran could attack them in their palaces. Now, they're not going to be sitting in their palaces eating caviar. They're going to be in a shelter someplace. They'll probably go down at least 60, 70 feet underground. Iran doesn't have anything that's going to get them 60, 70 feet down, They don't have anything like that. So they're not going to get killed by the missiles, but their country could get wrecked. So, what is Trump going to do about this? Well, let me tell you the only remedy, and I'm realistically afraid that I'll go 50-50 on this. I think they don't have a way to do what I'm going to describe to you, but maybe they do. Then that's Netanyahu and Trump is the day. they got to stop the missile cities and the mobile missile launches. They've got to make them non-functional. If they accomplish that, I think Iran would stop. Okay? Can they do it? I don't know. Last go round, they weren't successful. That could have been why Trump threw the towel in. And he's had enough time to go back and try different inventions, different theories. Like what? Well, they could have built simulated missile cities in America in a mountain someplace. That would only take them, a few weeks to do. And then have the special forces attack it and get a real-time, realistic understanding of what it would take and if it's feasible. So if it's feasible, and they could do it, which the last time they were partially successful, then they'll just shut Iran down. Now, what you're looking at is 2 aircraft carriers, which is, let's just, maybe 150 combat planes, or 160 would be generous. And Israel's got 350, so, there's a lot there. But America's got land, so I would say America's got at least 225 to 250 planes, and Israel has more than that. So they're up at about 600 planes, but I think if they just use about 250, they could be bombing Iran into oblivion day by day. Trump may have developed some sort of a burrowing down bunker buster that will destroy these missile cities. I don't know. I don't think so. They may have come up with other technology, and they may be using the special forces. Get my air conditioner going here. They may be using the special forces to approach boots on the ground these primary targets, like the missile launch facilities. I think it's this. Turns it on. And hit the missile launch facilities with ground troops, basically blowing stuff up. Guys walking onto the missile facility, physically being on it, and doing things like finding the ventilation ducts and dropping anything in there, tear gas, cyanide. I mean, depending what what do you want to do, or just obstructing them. Then they got to shut the diesel generator down. Diesel generators making fumes, toxic, dangerous, right? They got to vent these fumes out of the facility. Okay? And if they can't vent the fumes out of the facility, they're going to die. So that would be causing them to shut their generators, and they got no electricity to launch. I'll be back in a second. So the idiot Iranians have been teaching the people how to shoot 5 different firearms. Okay? On television. So they hand the guns out. Okay? So they're not going to give them to people that are likely protesters, so they're going to do the distribution through the mosque. Fanatic Muslims will get the guns. Then they'll take them as human shields and put them on the missile cities, which they did before, but they didn't have guns. So now they drop airborne soldiers and they're there, right? And they give them perpetual air support, okay? Like they at all times have 25 or 35 fighter jets flying around overhead with a handful of helicopters, which could be used to extract any wounded. And if there's any ground action, tanks, vehicles, anything, the fighter jets just destroy it. They actually destroy anything in the area before they land, before they parachute in. Now, they got to exfiltrate these guys, so you're going to have a lot of helicopters there also to pull them out. But you're not going to have 300 or 400 guys. You might have 30 or 40. They're not being sent in there to conduct a ground war like, infantry. All right. So what happens? They approach the missile city. The jets go in first, and they see there's a lot of civilians there sitting around drinking tea, holding AK-47s. What do? Well, now this is the stupidity of the Iranian. Now they're not civilians. They are actors in the war. They are armed. They're a militia. The jets take them out. That's what happens. So they're perverting their own human shields into being a militia with weapons, and they're going to get killed. Then the special forces come. Look, they could be SEALs, they could be Delta, they could be Green Berets, they could be Rangers, they could be the Air Force guys, they could be, it doesn't matter. They go in, they'll have explosives. Now, they could also parachute vehicles down to them. Now, Jeeps. Tanks are a little tricky. I don't think they'll do tanks, but maybe. Armored personnel carrier could be tricky, but they might do it. They also don't have to parachute them in. The jets are in the air and they take a dozen helicopters and they just land. And they walk off the helicopter, okay? Now they need equipment and stuff, so there'll be cargo helicopters that'll bring different things for them, and they just offload that. There's a big vulnerability in these missile cities. They're underground. They're built into mountains. They don't have windows, okay? If they had windows, Israel would send drones through the window all day and night. They don't have windows. They got a big blast door that goes behind them. So they got to get air. And they need electricity, and they got generators underground inside these facilities that are running diesel fuel. They're not using generators like you buy at Sam's Club or something like that if you have a storm and the power's out for a day. These things are probably more like the size of a big SUV or a bus. Okay? And they got to have a pretty decent supply of diesel to run the thing. Yeah. What are we talking about? They probably keep 2,000 gallons or something like that there, you know? Something the size of a swimming pool, even. So they could sustain the fight for a long time. Okay? You got to extract the spent gases. How do you find them? Well, likely they'll have some heat associated with them. And likely they're going to smell. And likely they're going to be colored smoke, dark smoke. And that's it. Now, they might have traps in there. What's a trap? In the piping, they put wire mesh like this, heavy. So if you drop hand grenades down there, they don't go all the way down into the facility. They wind up hitting this steel mesh or wire mesh and they blow up down there. That could be another problem. So you got to do multiple explosions. Okay. An easier way to do it is you just close the exhaust off. There's a million ways to close it. They just close it. Then what happens? They choke. They shut the electricity. They can't move the missiles. They can't fire them. They can't attack. Their radar is screwed up, and basically they're in a bad way. They don't have a way to go, and they're going to have to shut the place down. And the people are going to have to exfiltrate out, in which case they'll get shot at, blown up and killed, unless they surrender. If they come out white flag, hands in the air, they'll be taken prisoner for intel. Then the American soldiers will go down there, probably with oxygen. They could just use their skin diving tanks. They don't need that much time. Go down there and drag a few 100 pounds of explosives, strategically place it, put a detonator on with a timer, and then walk out, and then goodbye. The place would be easy to blow up if the explosives are inside it. Penetrating their protections to get inside of it is bad. So this is another way to get in. Okay? Now, if they put human shields there that are not armed, then the special forces have to come and drag them off the mountain. You know, they'll grab them by the hair and drag them, literally. And Or they'll pick them up by the feet and drag them. There's all kinds of ways to drag them. Okay? And then what? Well, they get them out of it and then they start blowing everything up. You probably don't need more than 6 or 8 guys or 10 or 12 guys to do a missile city. They got hundreds of special forces there. Now comes the mobile missile launchers. They got over 100 of those, maybe 200. How does that work? Well, they've got good intel and they know a lot of these missile launches are kept in the side of a mountain, in a cave or a tunnel, so to speak. Maybe they have underground or they have a ramp. Where they know these facilities are, they'll send special forces to blow them up, or they'll bomb them. They'll bomb the entrances, or special forces will blow the entrances up. And then it's really a question of constant air surveillance with planes in the air all the time. And when the missile launcher turns on, it's going to get picked up. And then jets are going to fire missiles that pick up. Our version is called the Delilah. It's a cruise missile. It picks up the signal of the launcher and it rides the signal at 550 miles an hour right down the pipe. It hits the radar and blows it up. Okay, the whole launcher gets blown up usually. Now, if the plane, is, let's say, 40 miles away from the launch site, he could fire right there. The ground control is going to get the GPS coordinates very quickly, seconds. Give it to him, put it in his computer probably automatically, tell him to hit the detonate button, the fire button, and it launches the missiles. He'll send a pair. "550 miles an hour, 225 miles in a half hour, 112 miles in a quarter of an hour, roughly 55 miles in 7.5 minutes. So it's about a 5-minute run. So when they turn on their system with the mobile launcher, they got about 5 minutes to heat the thing up, get it all calibrated, get the target punched in, and fire. That is doable, but it's a push. But after the launch, he has to get away from there. To get away from there, he has to shut down, or he'll just be followed. Probably has to pack up a little bit and then start driving away. So they're going to get a launch off, okay? But it's fatalistic, that's it. And then the chances are very high they're going to get it. Now, while the plane flying around with Delilah anti-radar, that tracks the radar and blows it up, while they're flying their missiles at the mobile launcher. Other planes are going to be putting on the afterburners going at 12, 1400 miles an hour to get over there. They might only be 15, 20 miles away, so they're going to be there in seconds, right? Then they're going to get a lock on that GPS, and they're going to put missiles or bombs on it. And then somebody's going to fly the area and look for them. And if they see them moving, they're going to blow up. Maybe a helicopter might do that. I mean, what I'm telling you is it can be done, but
I didn't understand that.
I don't know why this thing went off, but it can be done. But the bad news is they're going to get a launch off. And some of them might get away, and they may get out and do it again later and get another launch off. It's a tedious, long process. Okay? But I don't know how they're going to abbreviate it. You see, a missile city, which is more dangerous than one mobile missile launcher, is not a movable object. It's a fortress, okay? Armored. And we know where they are, okay? Knock, knock, who is it? Delta Forces, how y'all doing today? That's what, that's what it's going to be like, Oh. Are they going to take the same gas that Hitler used in the concentration camps in World War II and drop it down the air ducts? No, they're not going to do that. Israel won't do that, and Trump won't do that. Would they close it off, forcing them to shut their diesel generators down? Oh, in a heartbeat. It'd be a great idea. You're not killing them. And the missile city is dead. They run the generator, they're going to choke. They don't go around opening windows, there's no windows, They don't go opening doors, there's no doors, they're going to choke. They got to shut it off. What about they might have breathing apparatus? We could talk about this. Yeah. And what would that give them? It might give them 1 or 2 hours. Okay. Why? Breathing apparatus, a gas mask, if you will. It's got filters. Okay? And if you're in an enclosed space running a diesel generator with diesel fumes coming out, that filter's going to clog up really fast. And then that's over with. But if that doesn't work, like they don't surrender or something like that, they got to have another system in there, and I'll tell you what it's going to look like. It's going to be a pipe, probably about 1 foot, maybe 3 feet. Made probably out of aluminum, but because of the nature of this, it might be stainless steel or heavy concrete or something. And it goes up from where they are in this fortified missile launch facility where the missiles are and the operators are, where they are. It goes up to the surface and sucks air in. So they'll have a fan inside the facility. That's an intake fan. And it'd probably be, like 4 or 5 feet. And it spins around and pulls the air in. to create a fresh air flow inside the facility, right? I mean, to talk in simple, basic terms, you could take a plastic garbage bag, put it over the pipe where it is on the surface, and it's not getting any more air. Okay, and they're going to run out of oxygen. Now combine that with the diesel running, and they can't get fresh air in, they're going to be dead. And I don't think the concept of putting um, gas masks on is very realistic. I don't think so. I don't. And that's what I think they're going to do. So they'll blow up the entrances, the exits. Now, the other thing they're going to try to deactivate these things, okay? They don't want to just mess around and get them to shut their diesel off, and then 2 or 3 days later they turn it back on again. There are openings, apertures, doors, windows, sliding things, whatever you want to call it, that opens, that the missile fires through. They can't fire the missile in an enclosed space and have it hit the facility. It'll kill them. So they got to open it up, okay? They probably got to leave it open for a few minutes. So you got Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Recon Marines, Rangers, etc. hanging around at that site, right? Now, they're not sitting around a campfire making coffee and telling stories. They're in high stress. They're going to be on the horn talking to the base about what's going on, constantly talking. And they're going to be watching for anything and everything. For all they know, there could be 50 or 100 soldiers in the facility that are going to come out and start attacking them. So they're going to see the door or whatever open up for the missile to launch out, right? Okay. And then what are they going to do? Well, they're going to X mark the spot, and then they're going to go over there with some pretty good ordnance, lay it on that door, run away and detonate it, and make sure that door doesn't work anymore. You know, I would guess 100 pounds of explosives would do that. You know, the door might be 6 inches of solid steel. I doubt it, but let's say it is. All you got to do is knock it off its track with the explosive vessel. Jam it, bend it, you know, easy. And that's how I think Trump's going to get rid of the missile cities, and that's what I think he's going to use the special forces for. Is he going to try to do kidnapping, targeted assassinations? Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Will it be successful? It'll be somewhat successful. They can't all be hiding 200-300 feet underground. They got to have people up at the surface. Or near the surface, okay. What about Trump blowing up the electrical generators for electricity? Well, it appears they're not going to shut the missile cities down if they do that, because they have generators inside the missile city. But it will inhibit the operation of the military big time. When you fill Jeeps and trucks up with gas, you have an electric pump. And those electric pumps aren't going to be working. And they might hook them to a generator for a few days, but it's going to run out. Now comes the radar. That needs mountains of electricity. They put cables in like this to power that thing. You're not going to plug it in with a little plug, you know. And most of the radar's blown up anyway, but you know. All their communications and stuff needs electricity. Communicating with their drones needs electricity. Their targeting computers need electricity. Their phones, all sorts of stuff. Do I know if Trump's going to do that or not? I think that's a desperation move on Trump's part. He may knock some electricity out, specifically in Tehran, the capital, to scare them. But see, that's Trump's problem. He keeps trying to scare them. He doesn't understand. They're not scaring. You got to kill them. You know. You're not scaring them because the devil and the demons are telling them they're going to get 70 virgins or go to paradise if they get killed fighting this holy war. So they're not getting scared. You got to get them dead. You know. What did Patton say? I don't want you guys dying for your country. I want you to help the enemy die for their country. See, he knew it was all bogus. Go out there and die for your country. That's just garbage. You know, he knew that. What about them putting human shields on the bridges? Yeah, they'd probably do that. If they're armed, they're militia, they could be taken out. If they're not armed, I don't know what Trump will do. If he really wants to, he could send a bunch of special forces there, and they could just start dragging them off the bridge. Well, you could just tear gas them. They won't stay there. Keep tear gassing them, they'll get off. When they're off, you blow it up. What else is Trump going to attack? Initially, probably nothing. If he gets rid of the missile cities and the mobile missile launchers, he can move American forces, you know, on the ground around Iran pretty easily to take over cities and stuff like that. So he could take over an airport, okay? He could take over um, cities at the piers and the ports. He could do different things like that. Fending off the Iranian infantry isn't that tricky. They got armor that's old and not good. They don't have an air force. They don't have a navy, that kind of thing. The go-fast boats gotta go, but they're hard to get. They hide them in caves that the water goes into. They might put 3 or 4 in a cave, and they got all different kinds of caves and alcoves, and it's hard as heck to find them. They're little miniature submarines floating around over there. They know where those are. They'll get rid of them. They'll use an American killer submarine to go in there and kill the baby submarines. It won't be hard. That's what I think Trump's going to do after he gets rid of their missile cities. He could really play games and move in, but the prophecy is what's going to prevail. And the prophecy says it gets so bad there that the Iranians flee and scatter into every country in the world. So it has to precede Jeremiah 30:11. And then the sword follows them and they get cut off and killed. That makes me think that the oil in the Middle East minimally is going to be destroyed. Now there's warnings coming out. Not only pay attention to gasoline, pay attention to oil. What am I talking about? Your car has motor oil in there, usually 4 or 5 cans. The can is usually about that big, about like that, right? When you get an oil change, they open up a screw thing at the bottom. There's an oil pan, and the oil pours out. They collect it. And they do things with the old oil, and then now this is important. They can reprocess the old oil. They run it through filters, and they just get all the impurities out of it, and there's nothing left but the oil. Is the oil just as good as the virgin oil? That's a good question. I don't know. I know when we were kids, we used to, when I was a teenager, you were able to buy a car for $100, literally. I'm not kidding. And it would be a car that you could use for 6 months or a year even, longer if you wanted to put tires on it, put brakes on it, and do batteries and generators and the repairs, it would go longer. I remember me and a friend of mine bought a car called the Simca Aronde. A Simca was some kind of a foreign car, and it was AROND. I think it was a 4-door. It was like an intermediate-sized car, like a Volvo or something like that. And it had a stick shift, and that was our first stick shift cars, I think. So we were learning how to shift it, and oh man, was I crashing the gears on that thing. And we used to have to fill it up with oil or brake fluid. I can't remember when we went to use it. I think it was oil. It was leaking, so we had to pour a can of oil in it. We bought that reprocessed oil, I don't think it was brake fluid. I don't think we would have went to that. I think maybe every month you had to put brake fluid in or something. And we paid $90 for it. And it was in New York, and we drove it around one summer. I think we eventually wrecked it. But we used to, all pile in and go from the Bronx to Manhattan, drive around Manhattan with it. It was okay. It was a fun little car. So, it was cheap. Now, you were able to buy better cars, like in the 60s, for like $250. You might be able to get yourself a car, a 1950s car, that would last you a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, a long time. Be able to last a long time with it. The cars were pretty easy to. They didn't have these electronic parts, and they were, you could sit on the car and put your feet inside the engine compartment and work on the car. You'd see everything. You had a carburetor with an air cleaner, right? Then you have valve covers, and you'd see your generator or your alternator. It was easy to work in the car. They were big, they were strong. You didn't have seat belts. The metal was really strong. So anyway, this is, I think, what Trump and Netanyahu are going to do. Now, Netanyahu will do the same thing with our special forces guys. There'll be a lot of aircraft overhead of all sorts. There'll be A-10 Warthogs if needed. There'll be probably not F-35s, F-16s, F-15s, and Apaches and other kinds of helicopters and all kinds of stuff. Okay? And if anybody comes and threatens the troops, that's it. Now, what they could do is try to fire missiles and drones at the troops on the ground. This is complicated. So are they going to fire missiles at their own missile city, which is where the troops are going to be? I don't know. They may try it to kill the American soldiers and the Israeli soldiers. Okay. Are you going to the PO, the post office? That's what I see. Are they going to go make war against the IRGC in general? No, I don't think so. What about the blockade? Trump's going to tighten the blockade up. What about the humanitarian aid coming in from Pakistan? Trump's going to have to shut that down. He's not negotiating with Iran anymore when he attacks them. Pakistan is, pretty useless. They're on the side of Iran, not America. It's a waste of time. So he'll probably tell Pakistan that they need to shut it down. They'll probably say no, and then something will happen that they'll get destroyed or something. Those passages, or I don't know exactly what he'll do. The remaining airports are going to get hit. They're going to have to shut down that area by land near the Caspian Sea that Russia's using to bring weapons in. And I think Trump spoke with China and told China, we're going to have to hit Iran. And what do you want me to do for you for gas? You want to buy oil from me? You want to buy from Venezuela? What do you want? And I think if China went and told Trump, no, it's impossible, we want to keep buying from Iran, don't mess with us, Trump would say, well, your friend Iran is messing with the whole Middle East, so I'm sorry, that's not possible. Iran gotta go. Okay? So I think that's what will happen. All right, let's go through some current events. To get the gravity of the situation, okay? Um, I got a prayer request one today for someone we'll refer to as L, as in Lima, L as in Lima. I'll say the prayer, you can agree, it'll be stronger. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for L, as in Lima, for peace, comfort, strength, and help from you in this bad time with bad marital issues. And I pray this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you guys can agree with this if you're a believer, okay? Something got weird here. I want to delete this so I don't. Now, I think the Lord's also leading me here. So, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I also pray for El, for a healing of this marriage, a repair of this marriage. I pray for this as well, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that also. Okay. With Iran giving 300 drones to Cuba, I can't even imagine how infuriated Trump got over that. Okay. Now remember, they could attack the, they're 90 miles from America. They could attack the Miami airport, Fort Lauderdale airport, Depending on the drone, they can get up to Universal Studios at Disney World. In my opinion, hitting Disney World and or the other place over there, the other amusement park, Disney World would be the big one. It would be iconic. And such a satanic place. Might happen. I don't know. So the cargo planes, the military cargo planes are coming in again in big quantities. I mean, Trump's loading for bear here. No, there's no doubt about it. Trump's getting loaded up for bear. And the bear's name is Iran. The proposals and the peace talks and the ceasefire talks are dead. Okay? They're not going anywhere. On May 17th, which is yesterday, Trump issued a stark warning to Iran, stating that time is running out and hinting that devastating strikes will resume if Iran doesn't capitulate to the U.S. demands, which are not just nuclear, they're ballistic missiles, they're lots of things, the Straits of Hormuz. To make it worse, Iran says not only are we going to want to collect tolls for the Straits of Hormuz, which they're already doing, we're going to collect tolls for people using the internet cables that are laying in the bottom of the water, and we're telling everybody that's our water. You want to put cables in our water? Pay us. Which is absurd. But that means they're very likely going to interrupt internet. They may just blow the cables up. They say, "Oh, we're going to charge, tariffs. You got to pay us." And they go to like a company like Amazon or Walmart, and they say, "Well, it's $2 million a month for you." They do that to, they can collect themselves, a few $100 million every month from big corporations, banks, nations, oil companies, shipping companies. If they use it, I don't know. Telling Iran time is running out doesn't work with them. Okay, it's a joke. It doesn't do any good. So there's no ceasefire, no peace talk. Trump's warships are there. He's maintaining a blockade, which Iran is turning around and saying is an act of war, which it is. So I'm not anywhere near thinking there's going to be some sort of a ceasefire, peace deal. Netanyahu doesn't want that. Netanyahu needs a war. With elections looming, he needs a war to get the people. See, the people in Israel erroneously think that if you have a war, you can't change your prime minister. Well, when you got a curse of a prime minister like Netanyahu, you better change him. So the death penalty law for the Palestinians comes into effect in the West Bank only tomorrow. Wednesday, I think. So day after tomorrow. That makes sense. Yeah. It's just for extreme terrorism. Like, I don't know if they actually have to kill the person. I think it also applies to rape, like what they did on October 7th. So it's just in the West Bank. You see, the West Bank is not annexed yet, and it's not under Israeli civil law like Tiberias or Haifa or something like that. So it's under this military kind of law. So they put it in effect over there. I don't believe it's going to apply to any Jews. Theoretically, could a Jew do a terrorist act on a Muslim in the West Bank and get it applied to him? It would have to be a terrorist attack. I mean, it's conceivable, but I think it would probably never happen. Or maybe once every 5 years or something. I wouldn't expect it. Okay. Some guy went in there and ran over some Arab sheep. Why did he have to hurt the sheep? Couldn't he have just run over the Arab? I mean, I don't like hurting animals. Well, someone's going to say, yeah, but these guys are animals. Well, so then I'm supposed to say, well, they could have run him over, Okay. I just don't like when they do that. I like animals. I don't, the guy that, anyway, let's move along. Reuters is saying that three drones headed for Saudi Arabia yesterday or last night, and Their Reuters is saying Iraqi airspace, and it's saying that the Saudis took all three down. Drones are not that hard to take down, and three is not a swarm attack. Drones are slow movers, and you pick them up easy enough. Like I said, you can take them down with iron domes, you can take them down with helicopters and fighter jets. Starmer in the UK got trouble. Good. Let the guy resign. Let's get rid of him. I think it'd be good to get rid of him. After 5 of his ministers resigned, and about 90 members of his party called on him to step aside, that means resign. And following a large right-wing demonstration against him yesterday, Keir, that's the guy's name, Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, is planning to resign in the coming month, according to the British newspaper Daily Mail. So he's planning to resign in June? I don't think they want to wait till June. It's going to sound to them like he's trying to wait to see if it's going to blow over. If it blows over in June, then he'll just ignore it and never resign. If it doesn't blow over, then he might actually go through with it. They're saying he wants to do it in an orderly manner on his own terms. Maybe he's trying to control who takes over. I don't know. A lot of demonstrations in the UK regarding Israel and the Palestinians and Iran and all of that. So he's a lousy leader, so it'd probably be good for the UK if he left. This is troubling to me. American Airlines announced that it has extended the suspension of its non-stop flight route between New York, JFK, and Tel Aviv through January 2027. So they're shutting it off, like 7.5 months. Specifically targeting a resumption around January 5th to the 20th. There's other airlines that have been canceling flights, not just to Israel, to other countries, and it's going to get worse again. The Iranians are going to really try to make sure that happens, and packages are going to become more difficult. Amazon now opened up for express shipping. They opened up about 2 weeks ago for postal shipping, which is 4 to 6 weeks, and in reality, probably 2.5 or 3, maybe, I don't know. But now they're working with Now they're doing the express like 7, 8, 9 days or something. It should be. So it just started to open up. Now I don't know if it'll close in Israel. Depends how much Iran's going to launch at Israel. Now, mind you, what Iran's going to be launching at is American bases, big target. American warships, big target. Wherever American troops happen to pop up in Iran, okay, and Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, possibly Jordan and Oman, likely Jordan and maybe even Oman, and maybe Israel. So their list of enemies is quite large, and they've got a pretty big full platter here. Let's see how it goes. Iran is getting away with charging tolls to the ships crossing through there. I think they're using Bitcoin and stuff. They're getting away with it. A lot of the cargo planes have left the Middle East at the same time we're seeing new transports come in. See, the cargo planes and I'm sorry, these could be refueling too. The refueling and I think these were refuelers. They just parking them on runways, and they had them in Saudi Arabia. I know that, and other countries. So they're moving them out so they can be safe, and then when they need them, they can bring them in from Europe in just a few hours' notice. I mean, Germany is probably about a 3-hour flight to Israel. I'd say the max is 3.5 hours. So they can fly them in easy enough. Now, remember that the last time Trump went out in February and started striking Iran, he was doing the same thing, moving aircraft out of the region. I don't know if he thought that would confuse Iran into thinking something, but rest assured, Iran knows he did it the last time too. So, it's not scaring Iran. Zelensky vowed to target Moscow repeatedly after yesterday's attack. No. This was after the attack Ukraine made, killing 8 people, attacking Russia with a mountain of drones. Ukraine makes their own drones. He probably took a lot of Putin's resources out to take down 600 drones, of which 500 and something were destroyed. So Putin says. Putin says he intercepted 556 drones out of the 600. I don't know how true that is, but he probably intercepted many. And Moscow has got the largest amount of anti-aircraft systems in Russia. So Cuba got over 300 suicide drones, most likely from Iran, and they're preparing to use them against the U.S. base in Guantanamo Bay, against U.S. Navy warships, and firing into the Florida Keys. If America attacks them. So somebody gave him a few hundred drones to try to use as a check and balance, but I don't know what Trump's going to do. He's probably going to try to find the drones and get rid of them. How do you do that? Well, you send special forces down and they start snatching people and interrogating and working their way up the ladder until they get a really good idea where these things are. Then blow them up. Trump is calling a meeting in his Situation Room. Supposedly, I heard on Tuesday, but I have a feeling it'll be today. Because of the threat on the U.S. base in Cuba. Also, Iran threatening the American bases. And Iran is still interfering with ship traffic in the Straits of Hormuz. The International Criminal Court wants to get arrest warrants for 5 more top Israeli officials. We're picking up. You know, the heathen are imagining a vain thing, huh? They're trying to get together and say, we don't want God to do these things, so we're going to stop him. We're going to stop God. We don't want it. Well, fellas, you're going to learn the hard way. It don't work that way. They're talking about IDF officials and ministers, elected officials, and IDF high-ranking officers. Hang on a sec. the ICC court is saying, no, that's not the case. I don't believe the court, though. I mean, no, it's not the case because they haven't done it yet, but they're probably intending to. Settler activists illegally cross into Syria. These are Israelis. The IDF brought them back from Syria or turned them over to the police. What were they going to do in Syria? I don't know. Attack Syria? I don't know. See, Netanyahu will deal with them with an iron hand because he's so scared that the Israeli people are going to see through his bullcrap and just ignore him and the way he runs the government. He's so rotten, so he's nervous. Twitter, or now called X, is turning into a real joke and a piece of junk. Okay, I do put my videos up on Twitter because there's a small amount of loyal people that like it, but I don't care for that X. I think it's junk. Now he's saying if you don't have a paid service, you can only put 50 posts up in 24 hours. Once you hit your 50 posts, they suspend you from being able to post anything until the 24-hour clock runs out. See, we don't need idiot companies like this on the internet. Twitter or X is an idiot company. People, I mean, it's like the home of fake news, People put over there, they can put an article up there. Trump discloses New York Yankees are really Martians from Mars. It was in the alien disclosure. I'm just making this up. It's not true. But, they could do something like that, and Twitter will post it. It's just a stupid thing, It maybe had some value before Elon Musk had it, but to me, it's not worthless, but very close to worthless. And I think Elon Musk doesn't understand what to do with it. And he's hiring people who supposedly do, but they're the ones that are going to kowtow to him. So I really don't think it's worth much. I certainly would have no intentions of getting a paid membership, none whatsoever. I don't use the place. I don't care about it. I don't like Facebook either. I'm on Facebook through somebody else, but I don't use Facebook. I don't like that place either. I don't have a problem with TikTok except it's all stupid shorts. It's like irrelevant to me. I don't pay attention to it. I thought you could use it, but you can't. Not for Bible. Rumble, you can't use that for Bible. It's not Bible people going over there. Twitch, that's for gamers. That's light years away from Bible. You get Bible on Facebook, I agree, but I can't stand Facebook. Like I'm dealing with the SS, I don't like that place at all. Those are really your big outlets, The Telegram is becoming a burden to me more than anything. But when the wars come about, it's useful information, so I'm going to keep up with it. But I think once the wars are over, I'll be done with Telegram. It's a lot of work, and it's becoming really bad. Like the people that I got, 30 or 40 channels I follow. So, but not all the time. So if I want to really find out what something is going on, I would use those channels. But now I can do it through AI. AI only considers news valid if it comes from Reuters or New York Times or one of those places, New York Post, the Washington newspaper, whatever they call it, you know. And a lot of the stories are true and real, and they're not there. Like with the oil for the car. So there's supposedly going to be an oil shortage for the car, pouring the cans of oil into your motor. So I guess a lot of people are going to start stockpiling those cans of oil. But, you know, I used to buy cars and I would change the oil every 90 days, right? Then I realized that I was generally keeping cars mostly 1 or 2 years when I was in the world. So I didn't really worry about changing the oil on them. I wasn't putting miles on them, you know? And I would change it, you know, every now and then, but you don't really have to. I took cars and ran them 25,000 miles before you change the oil, you know? They do tell you that if you change the oil every 3,000 or 4,000 miles, the car will last longer. Do I think that's true? Probably. I probably do. But I don't, you know, we change our oil here, but we don't put miles on the car here in Israel. We got a very old Toyota, and we don't really put miles on it because you don't go that. I mean, she'll drive around a little bit, but not much really. You go someplace here, you go 5, 6 miles, you come home 5, 6, 8 miles, 9 miles. You know, every now and then you might go 20, 25 miles and come back, but the miles don't stack up. We don't load the miles up like that. So once or twice a month, we might take a trip to a supermarket or food outlet where it's 20, 25 miles each way. Once a month maybe, or twice. That doesn't put miles on the car. The other stuff is just, you know, chicken feed mileage, you know. You go 4 or 5 miles this way, 5, 6 miles that way. It doesn't put miles on the car. Some people put miles on the car. They're always traveling around Israel, but we're not one of them. Netanyahu doesn't prefer to spend money on roads. So in his 20-something years of reign of terror on us, a horrible leader, he put very little money into the roads. He doesn't care. Let the people sit on the highway. What do I care about them for? I want F-35s so I can blow the people up that I don't like. You know, he's a psychotic, you know. My opinion. So, yeah. Will we be getting rid of him? Well, I don't know. The Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox, pulled from him, but they don't got anywhere else to go. See, if there was another right-wing candidate and if Ben Gvir got in, or Smotrich got in, they would persecute Messianics and Christians and run them out of Israel. And that wouldn't be a great idea because they think that they're a curse on Israel. Okay, so that wouldn't be too great. So you're never going to have a good government in Israel. Are you here? All you're going to get is one Satan butt with another. That being said, I think Bennett would be better than the ultra-Orthodox. Anybody that could get the ultra-Orthodox off the necks of the people in Israel is a good idea. They're vultures. They want the people of Israel to support them, and they want exemption from their kids going in the military. They're absurd people. They're absurd. They're out in the left field. So, you know, Netanyahu doesn't care. Oh, I got to stay in office. I don't care what happens to the stinking Jews, to the Israelites. I don't care about them. I care about me. You know, that's the kind of leader he is. So, you know, you'll get another leader that, is maybe gets rid of the ultra orthodox, but I mean really gets rid of them. Like, no, you don't have control over the kosher food anymore. Any rabbi in Israel can say the food is kosher. Okay, that's a good thing. Strip them out. No, we're not paying you people to go, you know, pay you to go sit in your yeshivas all day long. No. You want to sit in your yeshivas all day long? Go find your own money. Leave us alone. And get rid of that. Okay? That's the only real axe I would say we got to grind with them. Let them go support themselves like any other Israeli, or if their organization wants to support them, who the heck cares? That's up to them. And let them go in the draft like anybody else. And they don't want any of these things. So, Bennett may get rid of them. If you get rid of them with the kosher money, they're going to be hurting. They make a ton off of that. If you get rid of them being the only ones that could determine who's a Jew, which also goes with that, oh, that's great. You get rid of them there too. And they need to be ended from being the only ones that can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to Judaism anymore. It's not there. The way the conversion worked is the person started in the old days, before Yeshua, they just started following the law. And, but anyway, so it'd be really a good thing. They don't talk to us, they look down at us. Anybody who's not one of them, they look down at, most of them don't work. Most of them, in my opinion, are head cases. I don't know. Bennett will reduce their influence, but he won't get rid of them altogether. But he'll hurt them. He'll make them want to go in the. He'll insist they go in the draft, and if that happens, they might leave Israel. But they're talking about it. They talk tough. Let's see what they really do. They run two streams of talk. One is, yeah, well, we'll tell all our kids not to go in the military, and you could go put them in jail, and we'll just load up your jails. What are you going to do then? Good point. The other thing is, no, we're going to all leave Israel. We got 1.2 million people, and we'll just tell them all to leave Israel. Well, that's the end of the housing shortage, if that happens. And where would they go? They'd go to Egypt, I bet. They can't go to Lebanon. They can't go to Syria. They can't go into Iraq. They can't go to Saudi Arabia. They can't go to Jordan. They can't go to Egypt, but maybe they can go to Egypt. Egypt's the only one that would likely let them in. We can travel to Egypt freely with Israeli passports. You show up and you go in, right? Can we go to Saudi? No. Can we go to Jordan? Yes. Could they go to Jordan? Yeah, but it'd be pretty dangerous for them. But yes, they could. They could. Don't know. So I would say it would be between Egypt and Jordan, probably Egypt. I think they would feel safer. It's not that hard to transport them to Egypt, and it's not that hard to transport them to Jordan, but don't know. I mean, those would be the two. Maybe they'd split it. I don't know. They would approach Sisi and Egypt, and they would want to have an area just for them, and it would be a rather complicated thing. I don't think they'll do it. They need to have a big place to go, and it would take probably a year and a half, 2 years to build it out. I'm not so sure they're going to leave. Not so sure. So the ultra Orthodox apparently were trying to get hooked up with some other political people, and they failed. They might go back to Netanyahu, I don't know. I don't know. Netanyahu is such a piece of trash. He keeps insisting the Israeli public don't get guns freely. What kind of nonsense is that? We're surrounded by enemies. They all get guns. You think the Egyptians don't have guns? You think the Jordanians don't have guns? The Syrians, they got AK-47s, full automatic. They got RPGs. He doesn't want us to have pistols. He's so bad. So bad. That's why October 7th happened. We didn't have guns. You think they would have come in if we had AK-47s? They just would have got shot dead. The gasoline. Get this to stay still, stupid iPad. Stay still, you piece of garbage. It's such a piece of crap, this thing. Just keeps spinning around. Okay. It won't stay still. I don't know what's going on. I think I might need to reboot it. Let's see. I gotta reboot it. Hold on. I'll go through the prices with you on everything. These iPads go, I think, about 18 months, maybe 24 months, and then they start giving you trouble. They don't have a good life. If you got enough money, they're about 5,500 shekels in Israel. If you got enough money to just throw them out after 18 months, you'd be okay with them. But it's a lot of money to throw away. All right, looks like I got it holding. The oil prices, the WTI, that's like the American price, 107 a barrel. The Brent, which is like the Euro price, European, is $111 a barrel. For physical delivery, you got to bump these prices $20, $25. So your American price for physical delivery is about $130, $135. And your European price is about $133, $136 a barrel. That's the real price if you want the oil today. Gasoline at the pump in America, it's averaging about $4.50. It's varying some places and more than others. Okay, in Europe, they're running at about $8 at the pump, which is like Israel. Okay, Netherlands is running $10 at the pump. $10. Hong Kong is running at $16 a gallon at the pump. And Malawi, whatever that's worth, is $13 a gallon at the pump. The gold is bouncing around at about 4,500. they keep moving it a little bit, so there's movement, so trades happen. And the silver's bouncing around at about 75. So the prices of oil, of silver and gold are not really going up because the investors are not really very intoxicated about silver and gold right now. Why? Because they're playing the paper gold and silver, 107, 111, okay? If they invest in oil and they hit it right, they could double or triple their money easily. You're not going to double and triple on gold and silver easily. It would mean gold goes to 9,000 an ounce and silver goes to 150, but they're not having any problems looking at the gasoline, the crude oil at 200, 220 a barrel, 300 a barrel. And a lot of people are looking at 500 or more a barrel. So if they get up that high, they go up fivefold. And the way things are looking in the Middle East, you're going to get very high on oil prices. The value will be very up there. Because not only are you going to have your Persian Gulf problem, which is in existence now, you're going to have your Red Sea problem, which is only about 7% of the world oil, but it's going to add fuel to the fire. Okay? Now, we got more problems with the curse on Israel from Netanyahu. He's running around talking about renewing ceasefires with Lebanon. Okay, now the people in Israel are getting very sick and tired of this idiot. Okay? What ceasefire? The people that live up in the north by the border, like Metula, they're constantly being attacked. These drones, these fiber optic cable directed drones and other things, they're not happy. They're getting attacked all the time. The soldiers are being attacked. There's no ceasefire. Why does this mental midget, Netanyahu, run around trying to think the people that live in Israel are going to believe this flaming idiot, this transactional lunatic, telling us there's a ceasefire in Lebanon when there's anything but a ceasefire in Lebanon? Why do we want to have a moron that talks to us this way? Why do we need that? I told you when this thing started with ceasefires with Lebanon, we're not fighting Lebanon, we're fighting Hezbollah, and having a ceasefire with Lebanon is an idiot's behavior. And why does Netanyahu keep treating us like idiots? Because we're not Satan bots and he thinks we're idiots. I think that the least intelligent believer is smarter than any Satan bot. And you just wait, the smarter than the smartest Satan bot. Because just wait a little while till we get to that day, the day of vengeance and redemption begins, and watch what happens to them. They won't be here anymore. The tares, oh gosh, I can't wait for them to be gone. They're worthless. They're bitter figs. You can't eat them. You know, you can't do anything with them. They're obtuse to mankind. That's Netanyahu. He's terrible. Terrible. Simply horrible. And I don't know what we're going to do with him, but I think he'll be here until the Lord gets rid of him. I think he built a whole machine That's why we can't get rid of him. He's got a whole deep state embedded in the government, and we can't do anything about it. We need Jehovah to do it. We won't get there. But a few years ago, he did lose an election to Bennett, Naftali Bennett, and he might lose again. Bennett might open up immigration, I don't know. It could happen because it would be an economic boost. You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. Let me see what this is. Why? Yeah. What? What? Yeah. I'm not hearing you. Okay, the clock, yeah. All right, I'll talk to you when you get home. Bye. There's some sewage backing up in our front yard and we don't know where it's coming from. Please pray that we don't get stuck paying for it, but we probably will. If you tell the landlord to pay for it, he'll just say move out. You know? Oh, this country's. Why are the landlords so nasty to the people that rent? Because the people that rent are poorer than the saithbots that own the houses most of the time, right? Not every, there's not saithbots that own houses too. But Netanyahu has a great dislike for poor people. So we have a third of the people here in Israel living at the poverty line. And this piece of garbage, the curse of Israel, will never talk about that. I've never seen him get on the air and talk about it. Because if he talks about it, he has to tell the people what he's going to do about it. And he doesn't want to do anything about it. Just like he doesn't want to build hospitals. All he wants to do is buy weapons. That's all this character wants you to do. The taxes on the Israeli people are 50%. You've got a job, you make any kind of money, not rich, just any kind of money. You're paying 50% taxes. And then when you buy a car, you're paying 100 to 150% tax on the car. And then whenever you buy anything, you're paying 18% tax, even if it's a service. If you buy a service like an accountant, you got to pay 18%. Can you believe this guy? This is what he does to the people. Your income tax is 50%. Then you got to pay 18% sales tax. Think of it that way, right? You're paying $3 a gallon tax, so you're paying about $8 a gallon on gas. You listening? And I told you, you got to pay. So if you buy a car in America for $30,000, it's $60,000 in Israel. $30,000 of that is taxes. So this schmuck can go buy more weapons, and what does he do with the weapons? Let's take a look at this, okay? Now, the Israelis, there's people in Israel that know this, but there's not many. It's sad, okay? Look at Hamas. All his weapons. Is Hamas still there? Yep, a good 20,000 of them still there. They ever give the guns back or give up? Nope. Any intentions of doing it? Nope. What will that be? You have to kill them all. That's the only way that ends. Will Netanyahu do that? Nope. Does he care if they rise up again and start killing Jews again? Nope. Hezbollah, same thing. What does he do? He blows up their weapons, he blows up their command centers, stuff like that, with a few targeted assassinations. So what happens when it's over? The terrorists like Hezbollah, Hamas survive. They rise up again and they kill the Jews again. And then he makes war against them again. What a piece of garbage. He's a curse. This guy he hates us or he's dumb as a bag of hammers. Take your pick. Either he hates Israel, a self-hating Jew, or he's dumb as a bag of hammers. What's to talk about? He goes around bombing real estate. Great, you bomb the real estate and the enemy is still alive. They rebuild the real estate, get more weapons, and go kill you again. He's an idiot, or he hates us. You tell me. He's horrible, you know? But it could be that he has a real deep state built up and it's hard to get rid of him. You know, he doesn't pay attention. The high court said they want to know his medical records with this cancer thing. They won't give it to them. They want him to testify in court. He tells them, I'm sorry, I got the war. I'm too busy. I can't go. That's 3 years. So has Netanyahu elevated himself above the law? Yeah. How are we going to get rid of him? I don't think we can get rid of him until we hit end times. So I don't have a lot of time to go through the end times teachings I was going to do today. But let's do some prayer. My Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray that we would be into redemption with the appearing of Yeshua in the clouds very soon, Father God. Everybody I talk to and communicate with is having a hard time. Every one of us. I don't know anybody who's not having a hard time. And I pray that you would have mercy on us and end it for the evil ones. Just bring it to an end quickly and swiftly. It's just been going for a long time and it's wearing all of us out. We're weary. We're truly weary. And if you don't do it, we're not going to get it done. We know that. I know that anyway. So I pray that you would really move it quick, my Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if you're a believer, you can agree with this. And remember the scripture, you have not because you ask not. So are you asking? Let's keep asking. Remember the woman keeps nagging the judge, and then finally the judge says, okay, well, the Lord's the judge, of course. So let's keep going back and asking of him, get an end to this. I mean, we could do the spiritual warfare and stuff like that, but I think the real way to do this is to keep asking the Lord to do it for us. Okay, so I'm going to be doing more and more of that, and you guys keep agreeing, and let's try to do it that way. Otherwise, I don't know. We just keep. I know everybody I communicate with is got worn out. Everybody. I couldn't give you the name of one person who's not. So I think the time is right. Otherwise, these Satan bots are going to keep dancing the same dance over and over and over again. They're going to go out and buy Rolls Royces and airplanes and mansions, and we're going to keep suffering, and things will be getting worse, and we'll get food insecurity, we'll get medical treatment insecurity, we'll get safety insecurity, we'll be insecure about everything. and they'll keep marching on, and that's how it goes. And it's just getting where I think we got to just throw ourselves at the Lord and beg for mercy. I think the begging for mercy. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray you do this with redemption for mercy for us. I'm asking you for mercy for us. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. Look, I gotta live. I'm facing. I don't know what I'm gonna have to fix to stop the sewage. You know, and we got laws in this country where the landlord makes the people pay the property taxes. Everybody in Israel has to pay the property taxes on the house they rent. This is living under Netanyahu. Do you understand what a dog he is? What a horrible person he is? Okay. That's what Bennett doesn't operate that way. Bennett is different. Not that he's any good, but he might alleviate things like that. Now, how would Bennett alleviate it? Well, the last time he got in for 1 year, but he was trying to set up 400,000 low-cost housing units so people could get affordable housing, and that would make a vacancy. And then the landlords would have to negotiate with the people, and they would say, okay, I'll do the repairs, and the rent is less, and stuff like that. Okay? There is a social welfare system here that they don't fight against you that much. They want to make sure you really need it, but they don't fight against you that much. If you're old. I mean, with me, I'm old. So right away, how old are you? And you give them your age. Well, okay. Now, right away, they're figuring they got to do something for you because of your age. So, but I mean, this goes on in America too, but mainly for people that are seriously in trouble. Okay. And it's a real pain in the neck to get it. I mean, you got to go through, you got to go see this doctor and then that doctor, and then they might examine you. It's a pain in the neck. It's really annoying. You got to go to the private sector, then them, But once you get there, you get there. So we're facing the war coming anytime now. We don't know when. The problem with us, we could try moving. The problem is it's going to be really hard for us to move in a lot of ways. We've been here, got a lot of stuff. Okay, so we overcome that. We hired people and get there. Then we got to find a place that's, well, actually, places are pretty easy to find right now compared to where they were 2 years ago. They're not that hard to find. And prices have come down. Apparently, they won't tell us. But apparently, several 100,000 people have temporarily or permanently moved out of Israel. And that's why the houses are opening up. In terms of housing sales, I don't think that's going anywhere. Housing rental, I think you can get cheaper. I'm going to talk to some people and look into it again, I guess. If this is going to require a whole sewage line or something like that, I'm gone. I'll just tell the guy, hey, you fix it or I'm gone. Whatever you want to do. And that's it. I might have some legal recourse against him if he refuses to fix it. Probably not. It's very, very difficult to win in court against these landlords. It's really, really hard. You got to catch the landlord with his pants down, and you got to get him in writing. It's a long story. With this character, we had it in writing that he would do the repairs, and he wouldn't do it, even though he put it in writing. And then he was saying for an excuse that he signed the lease and didn't know it, so I'll just let you move out, move out. Break the lease, move out. That's what they do. Because they figure you're not going to want to do that. This Netanyahu, guys, you have no idea how bad he is. You have no idea. People live in Israel. Their mother and father lived here, and their grandparents lived here. They go to get married, and then they got to go to the ultra-Orthodox rabbis who control the marriages. And the ultra-Orthodox rabbi looks at it and says, well, we don't think you're Jewish enough. We can't establish that your mother was really Jewish. So if you want to get married in Israel, you've got to convert. These are people whose grandparents went to the synagogue, their parents went to the synagogue, they went to the synagogue, and now the rabbis need to make money, so they tell them, well, we don't know if you're really Jewish, so you got to convert. Which is about a 3-year process, and they got to pay money for it, and it makes business for the rabbis. And these are the people that Netanyahu uses to get elected. He is responsible for a tremendous amount of hardships that the Israelis go through. He's been in office over 20 years. He's had a long run at making our lives miserable. And then he'll put us in a war, and people will be afraid to change him at the election in October because they get brainwashed and they're afraid to change the prime minister, even though he's a piece of garbage, because in a war they think it's weakness. I can't. All right, let me get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers. I pray for your peace, safety, protection, and joy to be on us. We be happy, healthy, and whole, and our animals and pets would be happy, healthy, and whole, and we and our animals and pets would be safe and secure, and we have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, and we have strength, stamina, and endurance from you. And I pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. I pray that I could do better videos. I pray that that all of us know the Bible better. I pray that those of us that need a job find it, a good one, all around good job. And I pray for those that need clients or customers for their own business, that they find those. And I pray we have adequate finances and then some. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray that the wars stop, Israel stops getting damaged in these wars. I pray the yoke comes off of Israel. We don't have a yoke on us from foreign countries anymore, or Netanyahu. And I pray that Netanyahu gets out of office with this whole entourage of people. They're all finished politically. And we get better ones in. And I really would ask that the 2 witnesses be running Israel as the judges instead of these Satan bots. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this, even if it's a video, no problem. Spiritual warfare. And B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I loose off of me and my wife and all the true believers, our family and households, any witchcraft or sorcery directed at us, or any spells directed at us, is all null and void forever. And I also loose off of any of us, any unclean spirits would be out of us immediately, never to return unto them again, unto the person again, ever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. So I will keep you guys updated. The war can break out any day. It looks rather certain there's going to be a war. Trump's not really talking about any negotiations anymore. He's out of that game. It's all, you know, war. So Netanyahu's more than happy to go to war, and there we go. So it's looks like it'll go. Now prophecy says Elam, which is Iran, gets destroyed by her enemies. So we may see other countries join in seriously. And I think we've already seen the UAE and Saudi Arabia join in, and we may see Kuwait and Qatar go in also, and maybe the UK, and I don't know, maybe we'll see a big coalition go. I'm sure Trump's working on it. Okay, kids, so I'm out, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. Thank you for the offerings, and I'm out.